Hi, I'm PJ, inventor of the revolutionary xgym methods. Are you ready for a revolution? I am, and I've got the hat to prove it. Revolution! Another way xgym is a revolution is in nerve training. What do I mean by this? I'm glad you asked. First, let's talk about traditional training. That is certainly not nerve training. In fact, traditional training is detraining of the nerves, because traditional training, where you're doing traditional reps that look like this, are very uncontrolled, ballistic, and fast-ish. And it doesn't matter if you're doing power training, if you're doing endurance training, if you're doing high repetition, low weight, if you're doing high weight, low repetition, it's really all the same. The intent of the nerves is to move fast. And when the movement is pretty much the same, no matter what kind of training you're doing, the nerves get used to it. And that initial learning phase in the beginning of a new movement, of a new style, is lost within about 4 or 5 weeks. And so the learning that the nerves have done is over with. And it's the learning phase that's the most powerful for nerves. Not just for training the nerves that you already have, but for creating new connections between the nerves and for creating new nerves. And this sounds all fine and dandy, but why does it really matter? Well, the nervous system is just as important as the muscular system. For strength, it's important because nerves are more than half your strength. This is why when you're training your nervous system, you get stronger. Just like when you train your muscular system, you get stronger. xgym trains both systems. That's why our people are so darn strong without looking all big and huge and bulky. The reason xgym workouts train the nervous system so much more effectively than traditional strength training workouts is because of how we do the rep itself. Our reps are completely controlled, and the brain and the rest of the nervous system have to stay completely engaged the entire time. There's no opportunity for having conversations with your trainer at the xgym about your life or personal stuff or just shooting the breeze like so many clients do with their traditional trainers. No, you're focused the entire time, and your trainer's focused the entire time. And both of you are concentrating with your brain and with your body the entire time on your movements. You don't see this with traditional training. With those kind of reps, you see people being able to have conversations and talk and stuff, or watch the TV off in the corner. Heck, I've even seen people doing traditional reps while they're reading a book. That's not nerve training. That's not engagement of the nervous system. xgym is necessarily engagement of the nervous system, and that's happening with every rep, the duration of every rep, and every exercise, which is 2 or 3 minutes long per exercise. So why is this so important? Well, because when you're doing intensive nerve learning and nerve training, you're pushing off dementia, Alzheimer's, the kinds of things that affect the brain. You're also pushing off things like Parkinson's, MS, other neurological diseases or disorders, because you're retraining the nerves and making them better. You're also increasing coordination. The motor units are firing together because they're wired together, and you're better at the fine motor skills and the gross motor skills. We have golfers that start at the xgym who drastically improve their game. One guy came back, he said, "I'm just amazed. I always used to be in the 90s, consistently in the 90s. Now, after a month and a half of xgym, I'm consistently in the 80s, and I've done nothing to change my game in golf itself." That's because of the nerve training he got from the controlled motions and the concentration of the xgym methods. It drives me crazy to see especially professional athletes work with their sport-specific training coach in certain movements and then go do traditional weightlifting, because those traditional reps are undoing what they just did with their sports-specific trainer, because the gross, uncontrolled motor movements of traditional training is detraining the nerves and making them less coordinated. If you ever want proof of this, just go watch a professional bodybuilder do any sport. I don't care what it is. He's a complete oaf. Not because he's muscle bound, but the main reason is because he's just detrained his nerves to 10 to 12 hours a day, every day, because that's how long professional bodybuilders have to train. But you see an xgym client, on the other hand, getting better at sports, mastering things that they couldn't do when they were younger. I hear all the time comments from clients who ski, who come to me and say, gosh, it's amazing, my skiing has improved so much. I don't understand, because usually when I start skiing again, I've got, some rust to kick off, and I'm not as good as I was on the last ski day of last season. But since I've been training at xgym between the end of last season and the beginning of this season, my first day back to skiing, I was better than my last day of last season. So it's not just coordination within the motor units and the muscles themselves, it's also the brain benefits. Higher IQ, believe it or not, pushing off dementia, or even can be a part of preventing it. Better mental clarity, less stress, reduced brain fog. There's so many things I could list. Benefits of the brain from training like this, from concentrating and focusing and training in this way. Anytime nerves learn something new, it takes about 4 weeks for them to do that. And that has to happen before the hypertrophy phase, which is the muscle cell increasing in size, the bulking phase. But that innervation phase always has to run its course first before the muscles can start to bulk up. With traditional training, it's on average about 4 weeks for that innervation phase, just like anything else, any other new thing. Then that person tries a new routine. They try different exercises, and the nerve training innervation phase starts over again. But it's not 4 weeks that time, because they're still doing the rep the same way. It's maybe 3 weeks. Then they switch up their routine again sometime down the road, and the innervation phase starts over, but the nerves catch on even faster. Now it's maybe 2 weeks, because they're like, okay, yeah, these are new exercises, but we're still doing it the same way, so I don't really have that much to learn. Until pretty soon, down the road, that innervation phase is just days. We change the routine every month for group training, every 7 weeks for one-on-one clients. So we're staying in the innervation phase most of the time. That's one of the reasons our clients don't bulk up. They get stronger without bigger muscles because they're in the innervation phase most of the time, and they're getting their strength gains through muscle toning and nerve training instead of just muscle bulk. So when we start their new program over, we're starting them with new exercises like traditional training does, but we're also starting them with a completely new way of doing the rep. They have to focus, refocus, and it's not the same old thing. It's something completely different. It's a different movement pattern, a different movement speed, and so the nerves truly are starting over every time. So we can keep cycling them through a new method and new nerve training techniques, because there's so many different methods and different ways of doing the rep itself. This allows us to get the full 4 weeks on average of nerve training every time we start a new program, instead of that nerve training phase getting shorter and shorter because the rep is the same every time. I could go on and on about the benefits of nerve training with the xgym style, but then the video is just way too long. So these are just some of them, but hopefully you can understand how these few benefits that I did list are truly a revolution in nerve training.